under the flickering glare of a lone streetlight, a pair of hands, bound by cold, gleaming handcuffs, trembled faintly behind a woman's back. They belonged to Colonel Eleanor Vance, an African-American woman in her 50s, her elegant fingers now marred by cruel red welts from the cuff's bite. She stood defiant beside her sleek black Lexus ES 350, its polished surface a mocking contrast to her plight on the desolate curb of Silverwood Springs. Her tailored blouse was torn at the collar, evidence of a brutal scuffle beneath the sickly yellow streetlights and the pulsing red-blue strobes of a police cruiser. Her face, half hidden in shadow, was a mask of steely resolve, her jaw clenched, her eyes burning, not with fear, but with a molten fury barely contained. Two officers loomed nearby, their silhouettes menacing in the dim light. Officer Daniel Harris, a burly, red-faced man with a gut straining against his bulletproof vest, slouched against the patrol car, arms crossed, his sneer dripping with malice. "Told you not to mouth off, lady," he growled, shattering the tense silence, his voice thick with smug triumph. "Now stay put, or it gets worse." Officer Kevin Brooks, younger, with a buzz cut and a cruel glint in his eye, let out a sharp, mocking laugh. He prowled around the Lexus, peering through its tinted windows like a predator hunting prey. "Let's see what's in this fancy ride," he taunted. "Bet it's packed with dirty secrets." Eleanor didn't flinch at their barbs. She drew a slow, deliberate breath, the crisp autumn air heavy with the stench of damp leaves and urban decay. When she spoke, her voice was low, steady, and laced with an icy edge that cut through the night. "Your actions are illegal. You have no grounds to stop me. Search my car or shackle me like this." "Illegal!" Harris barked, his laugh a jagged blade. He shoved off the patrol car and stalked toward her, his bulk casting a shadow over her. "In this neighborhood, I'm the law. You, acting all high and mighty, driving this car in a place like this, that's all the reason I need." He leaned in, his breath sour with cheap cigarettes, his face inches from hers. "Maybe we'll test you for drugs too. Your kind always has something to hide." The venom in your kind was unmistakable, raw racism oozing from every syllable. Brooks, abandoning his search, closed in behind Harris, their movements a calculated trap. "I demand your names and badge numbers," Eleanor said, her voice unwavering, now sharp with authority. "And I demand a phone call." "Demanding?" Harris spat, his sneer twisting into a scowl. "You think you're somebody?" He jabbed a finger at his badge. "Harris, OC 1127. That's Brooks, OC 1539. Tell it to your cut-rate lawyer." "Phone call?" Brooks mocked, stepping closer. "Who you calling? Your dealer to cover your fine?" Eleanor's silence, unshaken by their venom, enraged them further. They weren't used to an African-American woman standing fearless, especially in cuffs. Her calm was a direct challenge to their power. Neither they nor she could have predicted the cataclysm her next move would unleash, not just on these two rogue cops, but on the very corridors of power across the nation. The injustice unfolding on the empty streets of Silverwood Springs was the spark for a reckoning that would shake the ground beneath them. It had begun 15 minutes earlier. Eleanor's Lexus glided through the shadowed streets of Silverwood Springs, heading toward the area locals derisively called the wrong side of town. A U.S. Army colonel, she was driving from her Virginia base to visit her mother, her face etched with exhaustion from the long journey. It was a rare day off, her only desire a warm meal and her mother's embrace after months apart. She took Maple Avenue, a familiar shortcut from her youth, knowing the neighborhood's rough edges. She paid no mind to the police cruiser creeping behind her. She hadn't sped, hadn't swerved, hadn't broken a single law. But to Officers Harris and Brooks, The sight of a black woman in a luxury car was a crime in itself. "Look at that Lexus," Brooks hissed, his voice dripping with suspicion. A rookie with a chip on his shoulder, he was steeped in prejudice. Drug dealer, or some uppity hustler who took a wrong turn. No way she bought that car legit. Harris, a jaded 20-year veteran whose career had rotted in the mire of his own bigotry, nodded. "This corner's perfect for a shakedown. Bet she's got cash stashed somewhere." He grinned wickedly. "Light her up, Kevin. Pull her over." Brooks flipped on the red and blue lights, the siren's wail piercing the night. Eleanor glanced in her rearview mirror, a flicker of unease crossing her face. She signaled, pulled over smoothly, and killed the engine, lowering her window halfway, her hand steady on the wheel. Harris swaggered to her window, foregoing any greeting. He pounded the glass with his knuckles. "Out of the car, now," he snarled, his tone dripping with menace. Eleanor's brow furrowed. "What's the problem, officer? Have I done something wrong?" "Get out!" Harris roared, his hand gripping his holster. "No questions. Show me your papers." Eleanor reached for her purse, her movements deliberate. But Harris, impatient, wrenched the door open, making her flinch. "Move it! What's the holdup?" He scanned the car's interior, then raked his eyes over her with a crude leer. "What's a woman like you doing in a car like this around here? You don't belong. What's your game?" Brooks positioned himself behind the Lexus, blocking her escape, his hand resting on his gun, a smirk twisting his lips. Eleanor stepped out, her dignity intact despite the insult. She handed over her license and registration. "My documents, officer." Harris snatched them, barely glancing at the name, Eleanor Vance, and the military address in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. He dismissed it, his mind already made up. A black woman in a luxury car was guilty of something. "Fort Belvoir?" he sneered. "What's a girl like you doing down there? Not just visiting mommy, I bet." "I'm a soldier, a colonel," Eleanor said, her voice clear and firm, anger simmering beneath her calm. "I'm on leave to visit my mother on Oak Street. This car is mine, bought with my pay. Now why am I being stopped?" Her military title and poised response only fueled their irritation. They wanted fear, not defiance. "Colonel?" Brooks laughed mockingly. "Big talk, but soldiers smuggled too. What's in the car? Contraband?" "Car's too clean," Harris added, his tone oily. "Gotta search it. Drugs in the seats, cash in the trunk." Eleanor locked eyes with him, unflinching. "You have no warrant, no probable cause. You're targeting me because of my race and my car." Her words hit like a slap, and Harris, unable to break her, turned to extortion. He waved Brooks back, feigning a casual glance around, then leaned in, his voice low and conspiratorial. "Look, Colonel Vance, let's not make this messy. It's late, and we all want to go home." He paused, eyeing her greedily. "We can let this go. No report, no search. Just play ball." When she didn't respond, he pressed further, his voice a hiss. $800 cash for suspicious driving. Pay up and you're free. No one has to know." Eleanor's gaze turned to ice, her voice cutting like a blade. "That's extortion, officer. A federal crime. I won't pay a cent. I've done nothing wrong, and your threats don't scare me." She stood taller, unyielding. "Return my documents. Let me go. File a report if you must, but do it right. And I want your names and badge numbers. Now." Her defiance, calling out their crime, pushed them over the edge. Harris's face contorted with rage. "You think you can talk back?" he bellowed, veins bulging. "Accusing me of extortion? You're done." He spun to Brooks. "Cuff her, resisting arrest." Brooks pounced, wrenching Eleanor's arm behind her back with brutal force. She gasped in pain, stumbling, but Harris grabbed her shoulders, pinning her. "Stop fighting. That's another charge, he roared. The handcuffs snapped shut with a sickening click, their metal teeth biting into her skin. Shoved against the Lexus, Eleanor fought the surge of pain and humiliation threatening to overwhelm her. That's when the officers' smug triumph peaked, blind to the catastrophe they'd ignited. They had no clue that the woman they'd mocked, manhandled, and tried to fleece was a U.S. Army colonel, her influence reaching far beyond their small, corrupt world. "No more tough talk now, huh?" Harris gloated, looming over her. Brooks, rifling through Eleanor's purse in an illegal search, spilled its contents: wallet, makeup, notebook, keys, and a rugged phone, across the patrol car's hood. Eleanor steadied her breathing, channeling the discipline forged in battle to quell the fury and shame raging inside. Her wrist screamed in pain, but she refused to break. "I want to make a phone call," she said, her voice a calm blade slicing through their taunts. "Still on about that?" Harris jeered. "Calling your lawyer? Or mommy to bail you out? Or some rich boyfriend?" Brooks added, smirking as he dangled her phone. "Nice tech. Stolen, I bet." "It's a work call," Eleanor said, ignoring their barbs. "It's my right," Harris shrugged, his grin cruel. "Let her make her pathetic call. Should be fun." Brooks held the phone to her ear, his smirk unwavering. Eleanor focused, her voice cutting through the night with chilling authority. "This is Colonel Eleanor Vance, service number Alpha Sierra 487-9012. The title Colonel hit like a grenade, obliterating their smugness. They froze, exchanging panicked glances. "Colonel?" Harris muttered, his voice cracking. Eleanor didn't pause, her words hammering the silence. "I'm on an unsecured line, requesting immediate connection to the National Combat Command Center at the Pentagon. Priority 1, broken arrow incident. Senior officer under threat." The air turned to lead. Harris and Brooks stood paralyzed, the weight of Pentagon and broken arrow crashing down like a tidal wave. Harris's face blanched. Brooks's flashlight clattered to the ground, his hands shaking. Eleanor continued, her voice a relentless drumbeat. "Location: corner of Maple Avenue and 12th Street, Silverwood Springs. Status: unlawfully detained by officers Daniel Harris, badge OC1127, and Kevin Brooks, badge OC1539. Evidence of abuse, racial profiling, and attempted extortion. Request immediate notification to Brigadier General Peterson, Office of the Chief of Staff, and coordination with Army CID and FBI for intervention." Harris's voice broke. "No, this can't be happening." He stumbled back, eyes wide with dread. "Ma'am, Colonel, there's been a mistake." Brooks, trembling, fumbled to uncuff her. "We're sorry. It's a misunderstanding. Please, Colonel, forgive us." Eleanor's gaze was glacial, unyielding. She shook her head as Brooks reached for the cuffs, preserving the evidence of their crime. Harris's radio crackled, a frantic voice blaring through. "Car 14, Harris, Brooks, what the hell are you doing with Colonel Vance? Chief's orders. Freeze the scene. No further action. Do not touch the Colonel." Harris, shaking, croaked into the radio. "Roger. Center." Brooks collapsed to his knees, face ghost white. The Pentagon had been alerted. Eleanor, still cuffed, stood under the flashing lights. No longer a victim, but the eye of a storm poised to obliterate the corrupt officers and their department. Minutes later, tires screeched as 2 patrol cars and a black sedan roared onto the scene, lights blazing, but sirens silent, a sign of the crisis's gravity. Police Chief Thomas Carter leapt from the sedan, his face a mask of panic. Flanked by 2 grim-faced senior officers, he rushed to Eleanor, ignoring Harris and Brooks, who cowered like cornered animals. "Colonel Vance," Carter said, his voice tight with fear and deference. "I'm Chief Carter. The Pentagon and Army headquarters have contacted us. On behalf of Silverwood Springs PD, I offer our deepest apologies for this outrage." He turned sharply. "Lieutenant Davis, uncuff the colonel, now!" Davis fumbled with the key, freeing Eleanor's wrists, revealing raw, red marks. She rubbed them, her piercing gaze fixed on Carter. "We'll cooperate fully with federal and military investigations," he stammered. "No cover-up." He turned to Harris and Brooks, his voice thunderous. "Surrender your weapons, badges, everything. You're suspended, indefinitely. Get to conference room 3 and wait." The officers, broken and silent, handed over their gear in disgrace and were hustled away. That night, a relentless joint investigation erupted. The FBI, led by Senior Special Agent David Thompson, seized control, given the case's weight: a senior officer, civil rights violations, and federal crimes. Army CID dispatched an elite team to protect Eleanor and gather evidence. Eleanor's testimony was a masterclass in precision, recounting the stop, assault, and extortion with unflinching clarity. Body cam footage, though tampered with, captured the officer's arrogance, racist taunts, and the violent cuffing. Her phone's Pentagon call, backed by military recordings, sealed their fate. Harris and Brooks crumbled under interrogation, their lies unraveling, admitting to the unlawful stop and racist conduct, though denying extortion. The FBI unearthed Harris's long history of complaints and suspicious cash deposits, painting a picture of habitual shakedowns. Brooks, though newer, had similar stains. The federal prosecutor's office charged them with civil rights violations, Hobbs Act extortion, and unlawful detention. Silverwood Springs PD fired them outright. The trial, months later in the Central District Court, gripped the nation, exposing the rot of racism and police corruption. Eleanor, in her crisp Army uniform, medals gleaming, took the stand, her presence silencing the courtroom. Her testimony was a quiet, devastating force, dismantling the defense's feeble attempts to discredit her. The prosecution's case, bolstered by body cam footage, call recordings, financial records, and expert testimony, was ironclad, exposing the officers' betrayal of their oath and their racial motives. The jury's guilty verdict was swift and unanimous. Judge Gloria Evans, an African-American woman with a reputation for unyielding justice, delivered the sentence with gravitas. "Daniel Harris, Kevin Brooks," she intoned, her voice echoing. "You were entrusted to uphold justice, yet you wielded your power to feed your greed and prejudice. You targeted Colonel Eleanor Vance for her race, assaulted her dignity, and tried to extort her, a decorated officer who has served this nation with honor." Her eyes blazed. "Your actions disgrace the badge and every soldier in uniform. This court will not tolerate such corruption. Racism and abuse are a cancer on our society, and this sentence is a warning. Justice will prevail. Harris, 7 years in federal prison. Brooks, 7 years in federal prison." The gavel fell. The officers collapsed, their families weeping, as federal agents cuffed them and led them away. The sentences reverberated nationwide, a landmark stand against police abuse and racial injustice. Silverwood Springs PD, under DOJ scrutiny, faced a reckoning. Chief Carter resigned, and sweeping reforms, stricter hiring, mandatory bias training, and a civilian oversight board were imposed. Eleanor returned to Fort Belvoir, resuming command of her intelligence unit with quiet strength. She shunned media attention, issuing a brief statement through the Army, praising the justice system and urging reform. She channeled her ordeal into mentoring young officers, especially women and people of color, and advocating for military diversity, turning pain into purpose.